This is a very important place. This is Kingston Museum. The objects placed here have significant value because they are placed here. What is a museum? A museum is a space with many objects inside of it. The space should be able to protect the objects inside it from harmful environments. Museums attempt to operate a bit like time machines. However, unlike time machines, they do not bring you back in time to a moment in the past. What museums do is preserve the objects from the past for you. Entropy is the enemy of museums everywhere. Objects here in Kingston Museum are placed in a time-freezing situation that attempts to keep them from getting old and falling apart. This is, of course, impossible. As Isaac Asimov points out in his science fiction story, The Last Question, if we could reverse entropy, then we are as powerful as gods. What kind of objects do they have here in Kingston Museum? It could be very old log boats or bits of old wood and bones. They basically have culturally and historically important objects here in Kingston Museum. Some objects in here are questionable. Do they really have to be important? Or is it the act of placing the object in the museum that makes the object important? The museum is the object. Who decided that these swords are important enough to be put here in Kingston Museum? Or this person? Was she important? Why is she here when there could be so many different skeletons to use in her place? You probably have nothing in common with the Board of Trustees. They have been educated in a way that means that they are experts in deciding what objects should be put in museums. I used to think it was a rule that these people have to be rich, but there are not any rules against poor people. This is just how people like to do it. Do you know the meme of the professor who asks his students, "Is this jar full? Golf balls are the most important thing. Make sure you prioritise the golf balls. Also, make sure you answer in the correct way. Do not say something like, 'The jar is just full of golf balls,' or, 'Please, sir, but the jar does not contain my sense of irony.'" In the book, The School in Society, Ivan Illich talks about how modern people have become institutionalised. It is very interesting when the professor asks, "Is this jar full?" The subjects answer in the manner that he expects them to answer. Does this mean that they are pseudo students? Museums are value factories, a recipe for manufacturing value. Take an object. This could be any of the things mentioned above or any other thing that you see here in Kingston Museum. Place that object in a glass cabinet or clear space so that it does not have situational context. Put a small note next to the object explaining some details about it, and remember to use lots of big words. It might be necessary to shine a light on the object to help solidify its importance. Some museums may appear to offer a dialogue in the form of an audio tour guide, but it can be hard to answer back. The Guggenheim Bilbao in Spain has a sensual atrium. In the paper, The 1%, C'est Moi, Andrea Fraser makes the argument that museums rely on philanthropy to keep them going. The objects in the museum must be important enough so that rich people can give their money to the museum. This leads to the situation whereby the cultural message inherent in these institutions relies on inequality in society. Museums and art galleries do better financially within an unequal economic environment. Alan Capral is the author of an art performance called Fluids. Performances such as these help to spread the idea that liberal politics are a ruse for cultural and educational elites to preserve their privilege. Donald Trump might criticise this film because of the duplicity inherent in its progressive claims. he might be right too. Edward Muybridge pleaded guilty to justifiable homicide in 1875. The jury had a subjective mindset, so they let him go free. He went on to conduct innovations in moving images.